got a letter from a mom whose family we worked with once, and she said, "We were so mired down in difficulties, we couldn't see a way out."
Sometimes it takes strangers, complete strangers, to actually give us hope and give us encouragement, like it's gonna be okay. And that's all I received through Chris 180 throughout this entire time, like it's gonna be okay.
All of our services are really reaching out to those people who were underserved, and we help people find a way through and out. Everyone on the team understands their piece in accomplishing the mission of healing children, strengthening families, and building community. We're going to make the world a better place.
Hello, and welcome to the 23rd episode of Chris 180's Lunchtime Live series. I'm Chaundra, Luckett, Chief Marketing Officer here, and we are thankful that you have spent your time with us over the past few months. This year has been filled with ups and downs for all of us. And in March, we could not have imagined we would still be inside, wearing masks, and practicing social distancing, leading up to Christmas. But here we are, and as we all know, the pandemic is very real. But for our team here at Chris 180, we knew we had to jump into action immediately and pivot so that we could continue serving and meeting the needs of our community during this time. Today's panelists are from 6 Chris 180 programs, and today they will share stories of impact despite all that's happened around us. Please remember, you can share comments or questions below, and we will answer live during this episode. I want to begin with our first 2 panelists. Anthony Bostic is the program manager of Chris 180's Drop-In Center for Youth Experiencing Homelessness, The Spot. And Aisha Williams is the program manager at Chris 180's Westside Empowerment. Thank you both for joining us today.
Thank you.
We so appreciate you all being here. We're going to jump live into the conversation now with our first questions, and we will start with Aisha. Can you both share a little bit about what you do and how your program works?
So yes, my name is Aisha Williams, and I'm the program manager for the Westside Empowerment Center, the Westside Connect Community Health Worker Program. And we work with residents in the west side of Atlanta, 30314, 30318 primarily, to help get them connected to resources. So we help get them connected to doctors, dentists, mental health services, and social services that help improve their overall well-being and also help to improve their overall health. And here at the Westside Empowerment Center, we also have a program called Westside Connect, which was launched this year. And we also, through that program, help get residents and clients connected to services, social services, to other partners that we work with.
And I'm Anthony Bostic. I'm the program manager for the Spot Drop-In Center at Chris 180. At the Spot, we serve emerging adults ages 16 to 26 that are experiencing homelessness or other vulnerabilities, essentially being at risk. My staff includes 2 life coaches, 2 employment coaches, a part-time music studio, a therapist, and I'm the program manager and operations manager. And as a drop-in center, young people can come in as needed for supportive help. The most support we get are provider records, their ID, their birth certificates, and social security cards, because those are critical to getting employment and housing. Housing is an issue, and right now with COVID, the population of Atlanta, and the weather, a lot of our young people that are coming here every day are sleeping on the street. A number of the shelters have reduced the number of beds because of COVID, and then with the weather being cold and wet, shelters are more in demand. People used to sleeping outside in warmer weather wants to be inside, so we're really struggling with finding housing for our young people in the light of COVID and everything else that is going on. But we work with them one-on-one and we coach them. We do not do the work for them. We coach them, but they do their own work.
Anthony and Aisha for sharing that. So next, I want to ask you both, how was your team forced to make changes at the beginning of the pandemic? And kind of, like I said in the introduction, none of us really knew what was going on in early March. What would be happening, or that we'd be on Zoom and, on this platform sharing today. But how was your team forced to make changes? Aisha?
So, like you said, back in March, we weren't anticipating that we'd be where we are today in December. But our team really focused on adapting and making sure that we were still going to be able to be a resource for residents. So we pivoted. Bostic will definitely share about how we incorporated food delivery and food distribution into our services. That's not something that we were typically doing, but we saw that as a need and, rose to the occasion to be able to provide food to residents twice a week. So that was definitely one of the first things that we did. We also saw that there may be a need to help people with medication. So we offered medication assistance as well. And most importantly, through our Westside Connect helpline, we really saw the need to be able to get residents connected to social services. And so through Westside Connect and our Westside Connect partners, we've been able to refer people for domestic violence cases, for mental health services, for rent and utility assistance through our United Way grant. So our Westside Connect helpline really became a pivotal resource for residents and really helped us connect people in a timely manner.
At the spot, the first impact really was around safety. Because we're working with young people, many of whom are actively homeless, there's a very high risk for ailments, period. And then COVID just was on top of that. So it was really changing our internal protocols to make sure that we could still serve young people and keep them safe, keep staff safe. As Aisha mentioned, we started with a food distribution that served a few hundred people in the community, both food being delivered and folks coming to pick up. And then we looked at job opportunities during COVID, right?
Mm-hmm.
There are certain industries like the shipping industry, UPS and FedEx, they're hiring more during COVID because of the online ordering. So we're trying to find places of employment for our young people with that, with COVID in mind, and doing that. Also with housing, trying to find creative ways to pursue housing, get young people housed, really learning about more of the resources in the community, again, in light of COVID, because it just makes things so much more difficult for us. And then it's also educating our young people. Again, we're working with 16 to 24-year-olds. And of any generation, something that's indicative of 16 to 24-year-olds is that we're invincible. I was invincible at 20. We're invincible, but at 20, I was invincible. So they're not thinking about going to the doctor. They're not thinking about preventive health. And because they're homeless, they're not watching the news like most people are. So they're not, constantly hearing all the COVID stuff. So for us, it's educating them to say, while you may not hear it, hey, so many thousands of people are testing positive, so many thousands of people are dying, and you really need to protect yourself and be mindful of what's happening. And so those are some of the changes that we've made. The biggest thing is just been adapting to keep the center open, because the reality is COVID didn't take anything away, it simply added to. So everything our young people were struggling with, had as challenges, they still have it, and COVID's on top of that. And so we've had situations here where some young people have been in crisis that had nothing to do with COVID, and we have to set COVID aside and deal with those crises that we would normally deal with. So those are some of our changes.
So when we think about, the 180 and Chris 180 is helping people change the direction of their lives. Changing your life during the pandemic is not something that most people focus on, right? But we know that the clients we serve across the communities really still have to make the kind of progress even in difficult times. So when you think about those that you are serving and have served during this time, is there a specific story that stands out that you'd like to share?
Well, I can share a story that's still in progress. We have a young couple that both come to the spot, and they've been coming to the spot for a while. They've been together for a while. We learned a few months ago that they were pregnant with twins, and they've been struggling with homelessness, and they lost their job because of COVID. They were put up in a hotel by a church. A few weeks ago on Thursday was the last day the church was paying for the hotel, so they were out. They were homeless again on the street. That Friday, she went into the doctor for a regular appointment and realized she was in crisis, so they induced labor. She had the twins. She lost one, unfortunately. and the other one is thriving. The Chris 180 OCH Opportunity Community Outreach Program, they put her up in a hotel, then in bridge housing, and I think in 2 weeks they're moving into their own apartment for permanent housing. Our life coaches, Nikisha, therapist Nikisha, and our life coach, Alicia, who's also a doula, they were at the hospital the day she had the baby, took her everything that she needed for a mommy kit, and just followed up on her. And she, and the young man, he's began working again, and they're just doing well. So they're still in process, but that was, again, a crisis situation. Some of that had nothing to do with COVID, like the birth. And even DeKalb County, I want to mention them, DeKalb County Board of Health, they donated a car seat and a playpen because the hospital would not release the baby without a preemie car seat. So her story is one that's in the making, but right now it's in a positive place. She has a very cheerful disposition. Even with the loss of one child, she is loving on the child that she has, and she's continuing to work towards her goals.
Thank you for sharing that story.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Yeah. It really shows the power of the partnerships inside our organization. Really, it shows that, and it shows the impact that every single person is making. Mm-hmm. So Aisha, I want to toss it to you to wrap this segment up.
So it's really hard to choose just one story. I think that one of our greatest impacts recently, has been our United Way rental assistance program. We've had several different families and some of our older adults whose income was impacted by COVID-19. And so to be able to help a client who is at risk of getting evicted get their rent paid has just been, the number of stories are numerous, and it's too hard to choose one. But, we had an older adult male who was on his own, didn't have any family support, was, lost his income and was really facing eviction. And so to be able to, our therapist was working with him, our community health worker was working with him, and then our rental assistance team was able to work with him to get his rent paid. And so now he can kind of go into the holidays knowing that he's going to be able to stay in his apartment. So, this really has been very impactful. I know when I went to deliver a check last week, the leasing office actually said, "Oh, I had just filed eviction for him today. We'll get him taken off the list." And so I think that really has been, one of the things that, it's kind of, I'm lost for words when I think about how we have been able to impact and keep people housed throughout this holiday season. So, and throughout this year. So I'm just really impressed and grateful for the housing team and the rental assistance team that have worked to do that.
Apparently the host mic was muted. So thank you for sharing that story, Aisha. And, we got a comment from Facebook, and Susan says, "Awesome story. Chris 180 provided and connected resources for this family, for these families." I think this time period has shown us how closely we can all work together to impact people's lives. And you two are on the front lines doing some amazing work. I am so thankful and proud to call you both colleagues.
If I can just chime in with one more thing. This week, we had a young woman who lives right up the street. Not a young woman, she's 72. But she walked in, she said, "I've been passing this place. What do you all do?" She came back the next day with $100 worth of gift cards to give to our young people for Christmas gifts. And so that was just really, really sweet. Because again, our young people living on the street, so $25 goes a long way. But that was just a great, she just walked by, stopped through, and came back and made a donation.
That's awesome.
That's so awesome. Thank you both so much. Thank you for being here today.
Take care.
Thank you. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for continuing to join us. So I want to move into our second segment. I want to bring in two members of our clinical team here at Chris 180. Jackson Rainier is a psychologist at our Chris Counseling Center DeKalb office, and Jenny Walensik is the operations manager for our school-based mental health program and is also a licensed counselor. Thank you both for joining us today. So we are going to kind of move this conversation to really talking around what we do and what you all both do at Chris 180. So starting with Jack, can you both share a little bit about your focus areas at Chris 180?
Very briefly, I'm a psychologist and I work with adults and couples in traditional psychotherapy, people who are coming with deeper seated problems that they are looking to improve the quality of their life And so that's how I spend my day.
And I'm Jenny Willenzik. I'm a former therapist and now the operations manager for our school-based mental health program. So this year we are in 70 schools across 4 school districts in Metro Atlanta. And we provide mental health and trauma-focused training for teachers and provide individual, group, and family counseling services and community support services for the students at those schools.
Thank you both for that introduction. So we all know during this time, more people have been impacted by mental health, or at least it's in the forefront more now than ever before as they've navigated through the difficulties of this season. Jenny, what are some of the things you have seen in the young clients that the school-based mental health team serves? Are people making strides? How are the kids dealing?
Yeah, I think when the pandemic first hit, we were told schools are closing for 2 weeks, grab everything you need for 2 weeks, go ahead. And we set up telehealth really, really quickly and thought we could just resume services as normal. And I think, as therapists, we know that we can't do that higher level critical thinking when we are experiencing stress and trauma. And we realized really quickly that we were all experiencing this collective stress and trauma. And, we can't explore thinking patterns and things if we don't know if there's going to be food on the table at night. And so we really had to pivot and switch the way that we think about therapy and the way that we do counseling with our clients, making sure their needs are met. I think also, putting our own oxygen masks on first, because we were experiencing that too, and then supporting the teachers that we work with, the caregivers that we work with, to do the same. And so that caregiver self-care became a really big focus. But yeah, we have, set up our counseling programs thriving. We expanded we're in 70 schools this year, some in person, some over telehealth, some meeting in the park with masks and social distancing. And so, yeah, it's growing and, there's definitely a high need. And the way that we are thinking about counseling and therapy and the way that we work with the clients and their families has definitely changed this year.
And Jackson, I want to turn to you really quickly and thinking through, so many people have turned to their spirituality during this time period and have relied on their faith and made mention that, and when they reach out for services. Have you seen people who have been impacted and leaned closer into their faith during this time?
I think that most of the people that I have seen have looked to find ways to use their values, their morals, their faith system, the way that they're connected with the larger community on into the divine as a way of dealing with the fatigue that's related to the virus. We are all in virus fatigue. We have all had it up to here, and we are nowhere near being finished with all of this. And so I am finding that as people find more of a sense of what they believe and how they access whatever they define as the larger, it helps them to make more studied, more thoughtful, more resonant choices rather than moving through the world in more careless and troubling ways.
And so I want to pose a question to both of you, and everyone in the audience, please make sure you give your questions. If you want to ask about any of the work that we're doing, you can put them in the comments below. But you all are both clinicians. And do you think because of the time we're in, more people are now willing to turn to others for professional help?
Jenny, do you want to start?
Sure. Yeah, I definitely think so. I think just the fact that we're all living in this period, we call it collective trauma or collective stress, and we're all realizing that we need to rely on each other for support, and then also, seeking help from a therapist at this time. I think it's become more normalized, and as we're all experiencing changes in life events, and sometimes just having, a therapist to go to be able to strategize and problem solve and have that protected space to really be able to focus on ourselves and take care of ourselves when there's so many other stressors and things pulling us in different directions.
And I think we're living in crazy world. I think that this entire world is absolutely bats nuts between the coronavirus, the political unrest, the social justice problems, you can name any number of problems, is that our sense of who we are is pretty much rattled. And when we do get sufficiently rattled, there is great value in finding a professional who can help you to re-anchor. And so I am as busy as I can possibly be, grateful for folks who come walking in saying, can you help me with this?
Oh, I want to pose a question that I didn't tell you all about beforehand, but we were remiss. We're going into we're in the holiday season. Next week marks Christmas for some who celebrate it, and it's a stressful time. As people navigate the holidays with their family members, sometimes or without, or maybe really dealing with something. What's one piece of advice for someone who may be really stressed during this time period?
Oh, I've got an answer for that. Don't expect anything to be normal. Don't expect anything to go like it went last year, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. This is a year to pick up your feet, ride, and to find something that provides you some sense of meaning. And it's likely to be something very, very different.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And I think we're all doing the best we can too. I mean, we are 9 months into a pandemic, thinking about as the year closes and we reflect on the past year and think about what we want to be different or change for the next year, just really taking some time to look back on all the ways that we've grown and been resilient. And, it's so hard to do in that moment, but really pulling away and taking reflection time and looking from a bird's eye view that, we've made it through 2020.
I'm planning for 2024 at this point.
At this point, absolutely. And, I couldn't resist asking clinicians their expert opinion as we get ready for next week. And hard to believe that we're already in December and almost January. So thank you both for the work that you do with our clients, with our therapists, and practice your own self-care this holiday season. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so for our final group of wonderful Chris 180 colleagues to bring in, I want to bring in 2 members of our community programs team. Sharika Zellers is the program director of our foster care and adoptions program, and Helen Yohannes is the program manager of our YouthBuild program. Thank you so much for being here today, ladies.
Thanks, Chaundra.
Hi, how are you?
We're great. Okay, so we're going to close this out strong with this conversation that I'm very excited to have. So we want to get started by having you all share a little bit about your programs and some background. Helen, why don't you get things started?
Okay, so the YouthBuild program is funded through the Georgia Department of Labor. And what we do is serve youth ages 16 to 24 in DeKalb and Fulton County who are out of school. And we provide 3 core services. So the first one is adult education to assist with them getting their GED since they're out of school. The second is construction training so that they're learning a practical skill in a high demand industry. And then we also offer leadership development by providing weekly workshops to our youth to develop their soft skills and also just get them prepared to enter the workforce. And just a little background, YouthBuild has been around since 1990. It started in New York. And it was founded by Dorothy Stoneman. It now operates in over 40 states. But the really amazing thing about Chris 180's YouthBuild program is we execute it with a mental health and holistic approach. So we provide all of the wraparound services and we have access to counseling resources to just support our youth in a holistic way.
Sharika?
So I am, of course, like you said, the program director for the adoption and foster care program. We have a contract with the state to license, open, and maintain adoptive and foster homes through our agency. So that basically means we do the pre-certification training for people who are interested in becoming foster and adoptive parents. We provide ongoing training for them so that they can continue to maintain their licensure. We also do adoption matching for people who are interested in only adopting children. We take foster children in from all different counties throughout our state and provide safe housing resources for them. We link them to services, mental health services, mentoring services, just to try to wrap them to prepare them to either go home and have stronger skills that they need when they go back to their families, but also if they're preparing to go into an adoptive home, to help them to be more attracted to being adopted as well. Another portion another service we also provide is our Gateway program. Our Gateway to Permanency program reunites siblings who have been separated just due to coming into foster care. And so some of that is the sibling group size may be a reason that they're separated. Some children within the sibling group may have different educational or mental health needs that need more attention. So it causes for them to be separated for a period of time. So our Gateway program is a program for those siblings to get reacclimated with living together, reacclimated to being in a family-like environment together. That way, again, preparing them if they're returning back home to their family, because that will be with their dynamic. It will be more closely resemble how they'll be with their families, but also too, if they're getting adopted, so that they can be adopted together and be able to be stable as well.
Thank you both for those high-level backgrounds really on what you do each day. So I'm going to turn it over to Helen first to answer this question. How has the pandemic impacted your program? What are some of the biggest challenges you've had to work through these past 9 months?
I think one of the biggest challenges for us is kind of trying to navigate the technology barriers. Because we work in the construction field, and that's a very hands-on, in-person industry. And so what we've done since COVID is we've offered our training through a hybrid model where our students will learn 1 week virtually, and then they'll come in the following week in person to apply what they learned in theory. And we've been alternating in that way, and that has worked well for us. And initially, when we were executing this hybrid model, we thought, okay, you know, as staff, we need to make sure they have their devices. We got them Chromebooks and laptops. But what we found, the devices weren't actually the real barrier. The barrier was ensuring our youth had the proper home environment that would support education. So just having a quiet space at home, having a desk and somewhere where they can really focus. And that has kind of been a bit of a challenge for us. And then the other thing that the pandemic has done has really caused us to rethink our outreach and recruitment strategies. And so we have kind of been relying more on social media outlets to just promote our program. We know that our target population, they're home right now, they have their phones in their hand and they are on social media. And so we kind of meet them where they are. And that's kind of how we've been just ensuring our program is still visible as people are home.
Karika? Oh, I think you're on mute.
I'm sorry.
That's the phrase of 2020. You're fine.
Right. But yes, the pandemic has affected us in several ways. So, of course, foster parents and adoptive parents are out in the community, much like you or I. And so, virtual learning has been an issue. We have a lot of children who are in state custody who have different educational needs. So parents learning how to navigate that. For example, if a kid has an IEP, how do we fill in those gaps if that child is at home? How do parents balance now if they have to work and then they may have biological children in the home and foster children in the home or adoptive children in the home that they're trying to make sure get their virtual education needs met and all of those type of things. We have had some parents who have been very apprehensive about bringing children into the home, only because, when children come into care, we are unsure of what movements took place prior to them coming into care. So that has been a struggle. One of our main responsibilities is to make sure that any children that we have in our program are safe. We want to make sure that we can check on them, lay eyes on them, and that kind of thing. So we have had to be really creative with that. We utilize, when specialists go into homes, they have on masks, they do the question checks to make sure everyone in the house is safe. But that, you know, those are just some accommodations we've had to make sure that children are safe, but also that we're respecting the boundaries of people because we are going into their homes.
Absolutely. And safety is definitely paramount to how we have been serving the community here at Chris 180, especially during this time period, because we all know that our colleagues, all of us, our teams continue to have to be out there in the community to meet people where they are. And safety is definitely a top priority for us. So I'm going to turn to Helen to kick things off on the last question. And when we think about success in this time period in 2020, I think we have seen, you know, measuring success is a little bit different now. But when you think about the clients that you have served this year and the participants in your programs, Helen, maybe share with us a story of success or a triumph over a situation.
I would love to, because I have a particular student who I'm just so proud of, and she's given me permission to share. But I have a young lady, her name is Mariah Smith, and Mariah actually tried to join our program last year. And just the life challenges that were going on in her life didn't allow her to complete it successfully. She comes from a really big family and she has a lot of responsibility over her younger siblings. So fast forward to this year in March, she reapplied to the program. And from March 2020 up until now, Mariah has successfully completed and attained her GED. Not only that, she is the only young woman in our class right now, and she is the first to attain her construction certification, and she finished it early. And on top of that, just a couple of days ago, she got her Georgia driver's license. So to me, she is just a prime example of someone who, despite all that's going on with the world and everything else and personal challenges, she really prioritized her education and did something for herself that's going to put her in a position to be financially independent and just economically self-sufficient. And I think she's just a great example to other young women who are kind of curious and interested about the trades, but feel a little intimidated by it. And I think, you know, she's just an example that says you can do it as well and prioritize yourself. So I just wanted to share about her.
Wow, what a story.
Yeah.
Congratulations to her if she's watching. We are so proud of her. All right, Sharika.
Of course, you know, we've had to make different adjustments, but I can say that I am really proud of the work that we continue to do with siblings during this time. We had one particular sibling group that we actually came in contact with them August of last year. They were in one of our traditional foster homes at that time. And so it was a sibling group of 3. And we had a traditional foster parent. And unfortunately, due to the needs of one of the children, he was removed from the home. So we only still had 2 that was in our traditional foster home program. And so the kids always had contact with each other because they would have visits with their mom, they would have sibling visits. And he probably left our agency in November of last year. And so COVID came and the children, basically their visitation was halted. They hadn't seen each other since about February. And so, you know, if people don't know, a lot of times those sibling relationships for children in care are so important and so big because they are losing so many of their other connections. So we had these 2 siblings that were still here with us. They were consistently every month, where's my brother? Where's my brother? When can we see our brother? And all of that kind of stuff. And so I had the privilege of being able to just approach these guys and let them know, like, hey, we have this gateway program. We've had some children that have recently been adopted, so that home is now available. Would you like to consider that as an option to be able to reunite these siblings? By this time, the young man, his behaviors had stabilized. Everybody had the services in place that they needed. And we were actually able to reunite that sibling group in our gateway program. So of course, we're thinking happy ending. Well, COVID, of course, is affecting all of us in such different ways. Our gateway parent was actually from another state. And so the isolation of COVID, the lack of movement, and then her being separated from her family was just very difficult. And so she ended up leaving and reuniting with her family. So of course, what am I worried about? These children are now about to be separated again. They've been together for several months. So they went into our gateway home June the 1st. and our parent left October the 1st. So I'm like, I just need a place to keep these children together. And so we were fortunate enough to have another foster parent that was opening, who did not even want 3 children, but she was willing to, well, she was open to 3 children, but she wanted to take one at a time, you know. But I was like, hey, would you be interested in keeping them together? This is what's going on. This is their story. And so she was like, yes, sure. And so fortunately enough, that sibling group is still together. For us, that is a victory, because siblings being separated in care is so prominent. And so to be able to keep a sibling group together, to be able for them to grow up together and have sibling relationships and be prepared for returning home to their family is just so important to us. So that is just like one of my great highlights, that despite COVID, the work was done, and that we have children who are flourishing together.
Wow. What a story. What a story. What a foster parent. We thank all the foster parents out there. I'm sure Sharika always wants to give plugs. We need foster parents, so reach out.
Anybody who's interested in being a foster, because I mean, honestly, it's just really important work. We have children there. We need those safe resources for children in our state. And there are just so many ways that people can help. So if they're interested or they want to do it at all, I would love for them to reach out to us to see what ways that they can be of support to children in care.
Well, thank you, Sharika, and thank you, Helen. Thank you both for being here and sharing your stories of impact and just how your teams have really jumped in to continue to meet the needs of our community in different ways. Keep up the great work, ladies. So proud to know both of you and get to work with you each day.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for having us.
So I want to thank you all for staying on 2 extra minutes. I really wanted to make sure we got some really great stories and testimonials in from my colleagues here at Chris 180. I appreciate each viewer. The marketing communications team could not do this event every month, and for a few months there every week, without each of you watching either live or later on or sharing the link with your friend. That's how we reach more people in the community. And our Chris 180 team has been innovative and inspiring during a difficult time. And that's truly what we do and who we are at our core. We step up and we meet the needs of our community. If you need a counseling or a support during this time period, now or over the next few months, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. You can easily go to our website, chris180.org, and you can find a list of our counseling center locations, which are all offering telehealth services right now. If you don't need counseling, but you want to support the work that we do each day, you can give online at chris180.org. You'll see a donate button right there on the homepage. And again, thank each of you for being here with us every week for the past few weeks and few months. And we are so appreciative of your connection to our organization and how you have all helped us change the direction of lives this year. We look forward to 2021, and I want to give a personal thank you to the director of this program, Christopher Jones, for his great technical assistance and for saying yes when we put this program together. Thanks to each of you for joining us, and we'll see you in some form in 2021. Have a happy holiday season.